Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
You mean you haven't got the parts on already? Come on, Carl, what am I paying you for? Welcome, guys, to the Chinese Grand Prix, episode number 3 of F1 2018 Career Mode. You can see right there on the screen, 2 upgrades, major ones, to the downforce, front and rear, and we also have a weight reduction upgrade, which I don't even think I even touched upon last episode. But that's the thing I did at the end of the last episode anyway. But you can see the massive, massive spike we've made away from the midfield. We are now branching out towards the front runners in this Formula 1 grid. And I'd say with that, we're going to be very, very close to the pace of the front runners, I would say. The performance comparison chart is not a true reflection on outright performance in terms of just raw lap time you can get out of a circuit. There are some upgrades which, you know, the top teams have, or even the midfield teams to some degree, that don't really reflect truly upon raw performance. For example, tyre wear, and also, like, fuel efficiency, DRS upgrades, stuff like that. So, in retrospect, we're very, very close to the front of the field. You can see there 3/10 to Lewis Hamilton at the end of Q1. Charles Leclerc pretty much backing us up there. Q2, pretty much same affair. I pretty much matched my time from Q1. I think maybe I went a 10th faster. So again, it is safe into Q3. But as we head into that session now, you can see the clouds are starting to form. The track temperature has dropped a little bit, and now we're going to see what we are truly made of. I mean, the laps that I've put in so far, they've been pretty good, but I feel like I can improve by maybe a couple of tenths if I absolutely nail the lap. So this is our first run in Q3. Ricardo goes to the top initially at the start of the session, coming to the third sector now. Really hard on the brakes. Rotate the car quite nicely there. Short shift up into fourth gear very quickly before we make the run into the final straight. A bit wide there, so not the greatest run, but across the line it is a 1 minute 30 point... Again, another 30-0. I can't seem to break into the 29s, which is really frustrating. Team radio from Jeff.
We're expecting some rain soon. Expect the first drops in the next few minutes.
Okay, with 5 minutes to go, we better get out there, and I'm going to make sure that I get another lap in. So we're going to go out straight away. We're not going to deal with the AI taking us out there, so let's go.
When you're ready, let's go.
I love that engine sound. How can I not include that? But anyway, here we go, ready for our final run here. Like I said, the pace in this car is really, really good now. Those major downforce upgrades have made a considerable impact on the handling of this car. There's just so much more downforce. It feels like a online car. It feels like the Mercedes maybe of the start of Season 1 or something. That's how good it is. But here we go. We just about get to start our lap. It doesn't look like the rain is hitting us just at the moment, so hopefully we can get this lap in cleanly without the rain affecting us. I'm going to take you guys on board for this entire lap as well. And you can see just through turn 1 and 2, we initially picked up like almost 2 tenths there, but it kind of fell away. But now we've got a nice exit out of the first snail section. We're going to be a 10th up as we head through this first sector. So pretty solid lap so far, braking now for turn 4. We're only half a tenth away from pole position at the moment, so that is very, very interesting. As well, take note of my ERS deployment. One little tidbit that you guys probably don't know about is you only have a limited amount of ERS to use over the course of the lap. So even though my battery won't run out over the course of this lap, I will exceed my maximum deployment. So you've got to run in like high through some technical sections. For at least, I don't know, 20 to 30 seconds of a lap, you've got to run in high in order to not run out of deployment at the end of the lap. But I ran a little bit wide there at the exit of that kind of second snail section, and I think this might hurt me down the straight a little bit. But otherwise, it's been a fairly solid lap so far. Like I said, the pole sitter at the moment, I think is at 29.5, 29.6, and we're on target to be only a couple of tenths away through to the final couple of corners here. We're up by 4 tenths. That's pretty much on par with pole position. If we can nail it through this final corner, we might be on target to absolutely knock the front guys off their perch. Across the line, 5 tenths. That's pole! That's pole position.
Nice job. We're sat in pole position.
That's pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. And look at the droplets on my chassis. It's raining. It has just started raining just after I set the lap time. And now with like a minute and a half to go in this session, the ball is in the AI's court. Can they knock me off my perch? First one across the line will be one of the Haas's. When the Ferraris crosses the line, we still stay P1. Next up is my teammate, still P1. The second Ferrari, now a Mercedes, now a Red Bull, and that should be the last car. Here's pole. That's our first pole position of our F1 2018 career mode, and we do it by just under a 10th. What a session. We timed that to absolute perfection. Maybe the colder conditions suited our car, because up until Q1 and Q2, the car wasn't really there. We were still a few tenths away, but we absolutely nailed the lap in Q3 under pressure. We look at the lap delta. It was just good in all sectors. Maybe this car is good in cooler conditions, but there we go. Absolutely chuffed with that. First pole position of my F1 2018 career mode. Guys, absolutely smash the like button for that one. I don't know what to say. That wasn't even a perfect lap either. I think the only mistake I made was running in a little bit too deep on that run onto the long straight. And that actually cost me a little bit of time. You feel that all the way down the straight. But despite that, we still got pole. What a difference the upgrades have made. I'm so happy. We have to win this race now, surely. Like, we can't let this slip. We seem to be the fastest car. In race trim, it might be a different story. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm so happy. Let's go to the race now for the Chinese Grand Prix. I'm expecting at least a podium, but if things go our way, let's go for the win. So here's the grid then for the Chinese Grand Prix. At the front, pretty much nothing is affected there in terms of penalties. Got both the Red Bulls there lining up on the third row of the grid. Hamilton P7. Pretty disappointing effort from him there, and our teammate Charles Leclerc in P8. I'd imagine that with the pace that we have and just how close he was up until the final part of qualifying, Charles will probably move forward in this race, hopefully. But just looking at the strategy, just making sure that I have all angles covered for this race. I do not want to let this one slip. It looks like the one stop is possible onto the mediums, but if you discount that last stop there, it'll actually be faster. But I think I might stick with the two stop. We're going to go onto the softs twice, and we'll run a faster race. That way we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if our tyre wear is quite there to go straight from ultras to softs. I think last season we went from like supers to mediums. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's time for this race now. Leading the Grand Prix. This is not something I'm all too familiar with. Even league racing, like leading is not something that I don't know, enjoy. It's a weird thing to say. I don't think I'm really a good leader. I like to chase. So it'll be important to make sure I keep pushing for the entirety of this race. Make sure the strategies are on point, make sure we don't make any mistakes, look after the tyres, get to the end, and hopefully at the end of the day we will be standing on the top step of the podium. So as we wait for the last car to form up now, we're going to get this race underway. Hopefully we can get off to a good start. 5 red lights and away we go for this Chinese Grand Prix. Looks like it was pretty decent up against Sebastian Vettel. Kimi Raikkonen getting challenged by Bottas going up the middle of both the Ferraris. And looks like Bottas has sandwiched his way into P2. So what a great start from the Flying Finn there. He gets muscled out there by Vettel. Still side by side for the two of them. I don't really want to look back too much. I want to get on with my own race and pull away from these guys. Because you guys know how potent the slipstream is on this game. If you can break away from the slipstream, and especially outside of the 1 second DRS window, it's very, very difficult for the AI to overtake you. So I just want to make the most of this opening stint so far. You can see we're leading by such a margin. The opening guy, the guys at the front there are battling so much. I think that's a Red Bull now into P2 with Bottas in P3. So the Ferraris have absolutely given it away on this opening lap of the Chinese Grand Prix. The gap is like 3 seconds already, which is insane. But another reason or another motivator for me to push so much on this opening stint is the ultra soft stint is very, very short. Something like 4 or 5 laps, so not much time to make up ground. And by the time that we do pit, we're going to be in heavy traffic. So I want to get away from that traffic as much as I can. And hopefully rejoin in a gap that's really good. We set the fast up of the Grand Prix. That was just me going all guns blazing, using all the ERS, using all the fuel. You can see we're negative in terms of fuel now. So the fuel burn here at China is a lot more harsh than at other circuits. Normally you can run in rich for a long time and the fuel is for the most part unaffected, but that is not the case here in China. Coming on to lap 5 now, Bottas has now got himself back up in a P2. One of the Ferraris have stopped, and so too has one of the Red Bulls for an early stop. But they're going to rejoin in pretty heavy traffic. But in terms of my strategy, I was scheduled to come in on lap 4. I've taken it an extra lap and just trying to consolidate the lead that I have at the moment. Even if I let the guys catch me, I'll have fresher tyres and I'll have more flexibility later on in the race. So that's something I want to... It's something I like doing whenever I'm leading. I like to, you know, make things easy for myself later on in the race. But anyway, now is a very interesting point in the Grand Prix. You guys are kind of getting an insight into what it's like to lead a race, how to win a race, how to manage it. So we're going to go all technical in this one. We're going to go full sweat and make sure we actually get the W on this one. We set the fast up of the Grand Prix. I had a bit of clean air between that lap and some lap traffic, so I managed to use all my ERS, use again all of my fuel. It set me back to point -3, but now we caught the traffic, so that's, you know, what I was anticipating, and I used up all of my fuel and ERS in order to catch this train, because as soon as I would catch up to them, I knew that I'd get held up. So now that I've caught them, now I've gone back into lean, now I've gone into no ERS deployment. I'm kind of saving everything up for this middle sector, because I can't really overtake them anyway, and I'm going to save it for the straight. But you can see Raikkonen behind us. He's a good 3 seconds back. Hopefully he won't be able to catch up to us before we get in front of Hartley. Hopefully we can put some cars between ourselves and him. But into overtake mode, into rich fuel mixture. Overtake is the fastest ERS deployment mode to use when you're in higher gears. Gives you all of that boost. And now that we're past him, we're going to go back into none. And maybe could we get Gasly as well into this hairpin? Fresher tyres, faster car. It makes a world of a difference, and we get the position there into P7. And effectively, we still have the lead of the Grand Prix with Raikkonen still a few car lengths back there in P8, I believe. We got a yellow flag in the first sector. I think that was actually Gasly who had a problem. Not related to me, though. We never even touched him, so you can't blame me for that. But lap 10, we're catching up to Ocon. These guys who are all staying out on their old soft compound tyres, they're really starting to go off now. And the difference between me and my fresh tyres is night and day. We are like a second or two faster than everyone else around us. And it's just so satisfying when you're cutting through the traffic like that. It's something that doesn't happen all too often in career mode, but when you can do that, it's just so satisfying. That's Lewis Hamilton going from the softs to the mediums, and he was in front of me. So Lewis must have qualified on the softs in Q2, and has started on the harder compound. He's gone for the one stop now, and he's going to rejoin. Only, I'd say, 10 seconds behind me now. So, in retrospect, we are fighting Lewis Hamilton for the victory of this Chinese Grand Prix. There's a... Are you serious? Gasly takes 10 years to get back to the pit lane. I overtake Grosjean, and I think that was fair game. We have to give the position up, and now that we're battling Lewis Hamilton for the lead of this race, that is the last thing I needed. He has no more stops to do. We have to still make another one, and we're going to rejoin behind Lewis Hamilton after we make the pit stop, and we have to chase him down for the rest of the Grand Prix. This race has just completely been turned on its head. I did not anticipate the one stop from Hamilton, and as such, we are under pressure for the remaining 16 laps of this race. Virtual safety car has been deployed. I think that's again for Pierre Gasly. Look at him, he's on the back straight going really, really slowly.
Green flag.
So it's just one of those things that's out of your control. But now we catch up to Perez and Alonso. These guys, both of course, are still yet to make their first stop, and they're squabbling quite hard here. This is like Perez and Sirotkin holding up the race leader here. Just having to pick my moments. And we slide up the inside of Perez. We'll probably get Alonso here before we even get to full throttle here. The difference at this corner in particular on fresh tyres is crazy versus an older tyre and a slower car. Overtake mode. See you later. That's the lead of the Grand Prix. But we can't relax yet. We need to bridge the gap to at least, I don't know, 10 to 15 seconds to Hamilton. He's on the medium tyres. So technically he should be slower than us. He will have traffic to negotiate as well. So I think the balance of things, the race is still well and truly up in the air. It's still in either of our courts to see if we can win the Grand Prix. But unfortunately for my case, everyone behind me who was on the 2-stop is all pitting and allowing Hamilton to get some clear air. But I say that, he gets held up by Vettel there. They're going to run side by side on this start-finish straight. And the battle is going to continue. So I'm imploring Seb to continue the fight here. All this battling is allowing me to get away tenfold here. Hopefully Vettel can just go for a dive here, hold up Hamilton for a little bit longer. Hamilton goes late under brakes. He'll have a better, more flowing run for the next right-hander. And I think he's got the position there. So that is job done for Hamilton into P2. We'll have to get an update on the gap. It is 9 seconds. So not good enough. The delta for a pit stop is going to be 21 seconds. So we're going to have to catch Hamilton by at least 10 or 11 seconds in the dying laps of this Chinese Grand Prix. So we're really under pressure now as we head on to lap 17. I think we're going to be pitting at the end of this lap. So it's full attack mode as we head into the pit lane. Not as aggressive into the pit lane as I would have liked, but I didn't want to risk getting a penalty there. But it's go time. This is what the race comes down to now. Hamilton will assume the lead of the Grand Prix on his 1-stop. Medium tyres. We're going on to softs, which are going to be, I'm hoping, at least a second a lap faster versus Hamilton's aged medium tyres. This is going to be really close. We're technically the fastest car in the field if you base our performance off of qualifying, so at least we'll have that in our favour. But 11 seconds is a lot of time to make up in just 10 laps. Oh my goodness, let's see what we can do. I felt the pressure there as this opening lap commenced on the fresh tyres. Just trying to get up the speed as quickly as what I could, but here we go, 9 laps to go. This is our first flying lap on the fresh soft compound tyres. We need to absolutely smash in a fastest lap here and put the pressure back on Hamilton, because as soon as he sees that fastest lap time come up, he will be absolutely bricking himself. But yeah, we're going to have to manage this really well. We're going to have to pretty much use all the fuel that we have available. We only have 0.2 of a lap in hand to use on the straights. ERS, you know, we're only going to be able to run in high deployment modes on the straights. We're going to have to pretty much save it all through the middle sector. I'd say none, but we'll get to that in the next few laps. I'll show you guys how I manage that. But you can see we're 4 tenths up as we go through the middle sector now. This corner in particular, leading onto the straight, is a very strong one for me versus the AI. The AI, for some reason, don't lay down the power very well down there. But anyway, final couple of corners. This is still our opening lap on the fresh set, and this is going to be a true indication of what the pace is. The gap to Hamilton was 11 seconds. It's now 9.8. We've caught him by 2 seconds on this lap, and with 8 laps to go, we're going to need to maintain that intensity. We'll have to keep pushing. Like I said, running no ERS deployments in the middle sector of the Grand Prix, and we're using all of it on the straights. You can see we're still depleting it quite heavily, but now it's just full attack mode. Qualifying lap after qualifying lap. The gap now, 7 seconds. So we're catching him by about 1.5 seconds to 1 second a lap. It's now 5.5 seconds as we set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Beat my previous best by 1,000th of a second. And now the gap is coming down massively. 3 seconds. It's a lap. It's a second a lap now. And on that merits, we will catch Hamilton on the last lap. But 2 laps to go now. At this point, the tyres are starting to really feel it. Like, there was a few moments over the course of the lap where I was starting to lose the back end, and I had to, you know, look after the tyres a little bit because the tyre temperature, more than anything, was just getting a little bit uncomfortable. Sergio Perez is out of the Grand Prix. That's not going to affect us unless there is a virtual safety car, which would pretty much end my chances of catching Hamilton. But here we go. It's the last lap of the Grand Prix. The gap is 9 tenths. We'll get DRS on the back straight. So let's make sure we can close up to Hamilton even further and be in a position where we can win our first race of F1 2018 career mode. We don't have much fuel to play with. Don't have much ERS to play with either. We've been just going maximum attack, managing that so well. Watch how many times I changed my ERS and fuel modes over the course of this lap. Just trying to eke out every last bit of performance out of this car. It's absolutely mad. But as we go through the middle sector now, hopefully we can make up a little bit more time. Sergio Perez is pulled off to the side. He doesn't affect us. There is no virtual safety car. No safety car getting in the way, so that is nice to see. But I gotta say, we're not really getting as close to Hamilton as what I would have liked. So we're gonna have to bump this already up in a rich high deployment mode as well, and just burn the engine, burn the battery, and just hope that we're close enough to Hamilton to go for a dive into the hairpin. But looking at the gap, it's pretty substantial. I'd say, if anything, Hamilton's probably extended the gap. So we're going to chuck it up and overtake the lap and use the rest of our battery. But it's not working, is it? Hamilton, he's just mega fast. I think he might be setting a personal best on this last lap. I am pushing like absolute hell, and I'm not making any inroads on this last lap here. So Hamilton is going to get away with the victory here in the Chinese Grand Prix. For us, we came oh so close, but it's only P2.
Nice work, you did well today. I think the boss will be happy with that one.
Oh, that was amazing, guys. Woo-hoo! That was wicked.
Okay, Lewis, that was absolutely fantastic. Awesome drive. That was absolutely fantastic. We were owed that one. Absolutely awesome. Well done.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
Man, I drove a race of my life, especially in that last stint. There was not a lap where we could not have extracted more performance out of the car. If you exclude the lap that we came out of the pit lane where we made a couple of mistakes just pushing the tyres while they were still cold, after that, we did not put a foot wrong, and we fall just short. Congrats to Hamilton. Full GG's there. He must have pulled out something special in the dying laps. My consistency in the dying 10 laps was incredible. I was always within, you know, a few tenths of my personal best all race. All the while having to manage my ERS, all the while having to manage my fuel. I went full attack on that fastest lap. But the rest of the laps I did have to manage a little bit, but we still stayed really close to our personal best. But I want to have a look at Hamilton's times. We were catching him so much, and then we got to a point in the last 2 laps where we just hit a bit of a brick wall, and that confirms it right there. Hamilton set his best lap of the race on the last lap, a 33.7. Holy crap, that's really good. I thought it was tire wear. I thought maybe it could have been dirty air, but more than anything, it was Hamilton going hammer time on the last lap, which was the difference in him winning and losing this race. So, full congrats to him. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, to see plenty more F1 2018 content. I tried my damnedest to win that Grand Prix, but we just fall short. Just gonna have to wait another day. I really thought we were going to win this one, but it just wasn't to be.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy. You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled. Another podium. You must be getting used to it up there. It wasn't your rival's day today, was it? What happened with your fuel strategy today? Appreciate your time.
Yeah, there are probably a few things I probably could have done a little bit better in hindsight. Maybe fuel the car up a little bit more. But yeah, I was just basing that off of, you know, previous data. Like normally the fuel isn't too bad when you run in rich, but for this race in particular, it was draining very quickly. So that's something I'll have to monitor over the next few races. But there we go. As the title suggests, now we can fight. Hopefully that isn't a precursor like for Alonso. I feel like genuinely we will be able to challenge from here on in for race victories, for podiums. Even though the car, you know, performance-wise, it doesn't show on the chart that we're probably up there with the top teams. But you got to bear in mind, a lot of the upgrades that we've done are all performance related, whereas a lot of the midfield teams, and especially the top running teams, they'll probably have a lot of tire wear upgrades. They'll probably have like fuel efficiency upgrades, you know, small minor things like DRS upgrades, which you know, in the grand scheme of things, don't really make that much of a difference. And I'd say weight redistribution as well probably doesn't make that much of a difference, albeit it might be a little bit small. But otherwise, in terms of raw performance, those are all the upgrades that we normally target, and that's, you know, the aggressive mantra that we have in my career mode. Essentially, make up the gap performance-wise, and then after, like we're starting to get to now, we'll kind of look at reliability and other things along that line. But we did another 2 upgrades to downforce. This time they're only minors, but heading into some high downforce circuits, that'll certainly make even more of a difference. So I'm really much looking forward to being able to challenge on a much more consistent basis. But guys, that's been this episode for today. Until the next one, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Might be a tough circuit again, but we'll have to wait and see. Until then, I'll see you next time.